If you are nearing retirement or have recently retired, the information I'm going to explain to you is profoundly important. Hello, this is David Macchia. I'm an author, public speaker, and nationally recognized expert in the field of retirement income planning. I've written dozens of articles on the subject and 2 books, Lucky Retiree and Constrained Investor. I am also the developer of 4 retirement income planning solutions used by financial advisors across the USA, including Women and Income, the first retirement income solution developed expressly for boomer women. Why a special program for women? Well, with greater caregiver responsibilities, lower savings, and smaller Social Security benefits, not to mention lower pay, planning for retirement security is simply more complex for women. But whether you are male or female, when you enter retirement, you will face the need to use your savings to pay bills. The question is, how will you do that? Withdraw a regular amount each month? That is what many investment advisors recommend. But that can be the worst advice for constrained investors, advice that can lead to losing your income. Planning for income is a different job than accumulating savings. It requires different skills and different insights. I describe this in detail in my book, Constrained Investor. But here is the most important piece of wisdom I want to share with you. Financially, there is nothing more important to a retiree than income. Income is everything to a retiree. Why? A couple of reasons. First, no retiree stops needing income. Whether you are 65 or 73 or 91, bills must be paid. Second, and this is vital to understand, once you retire, it's your income, not your savings, that create your standard of living. In my experience, that statement is surprising to many people. Does it surprise you? Let me explain why it's true. We'll need to take an imaginary trip back in time to the year 2000. There we'll meet a retiree named Jean. A disciplined saver, Jean has reached retirement with a nest egg of $1 million. Jean is completely averse to risk. She can't bear the thought of losing money to investments. So she takes her money to the safest place she knows, her bank. And the banker advises Jean to invest in 6-month CDs, paying an interest rate of 6.91%. Jean takes the advice and very happily collects monthly interest income of $5,758. Fast forward this story 14 years. It's 2014. At age 79, Jean is no less averse to risk than she was when she was 65. But something significant has happened. The interest rate on her CDs has plummeted to 0.28%. This has lowered Jean's monthly income to only $232. Bring this story ahead 7 more years to 2021. The interest rate has dropped even further to 0.09%. Jean's monthly income now has been reduced to a minuscule $75. But here's the thing. From 2000 to 2021, Jean's wealth, her savings of $1 million, never changed. But her income changed a lot. A 99% decline. This example demonstrates a principle I developed. It's one I urge you to remember. The income-producing capacity of money changes all the time. You should assume that it will change after you retire. We can draw 2 lessons from this story. First, no one thing, such as Jean's CDs, is the answer for a well-designed plan for retirement income. It takes different types of savings and investment vehicles working together to deliver the best result. And second, Most people need a strategy that begins with a strong foundation of safe and secure income. But above that foundation, they need some exposure, either linked to or directly participating in the upside potential of investing. This is especially important for constrained investors. If Jean had a plan that, throughout retirement, gave her a guaranteed paycheck each and every month, she probably could have tolerated having some of her money exposed to stocks. Had she done this, her retirement would have been made much, much stronger. What defines a constrained investor? And why do I say that this is the most important concept for retirees to understand? Here's why. For decades, the financial services industry has had a system to categorize its customers. Based upon the level of investment assets they own, it places people in what are called wealth segments. These range from low net worth to ultra high net worth. Different products and services are then served up to people depending upon into which segment they fall. This system is fine before retirement, but because it makes no room for the issues that matter most in retirement income planning, it becomes grossly inadequate once individuals make the transition to spending down their savings. A better approach was needed. Constrained Investor introduces an entirely different way to assess and serve the needs of retirees. At retirement, every individual will fit into one of three categories of investors. They are underfunded investors, overfunded investors, and constrained investors. Underfunded investors haven't saved much. For retirement income, they will rely primarily on Social Security. Overfunded investors are a relatively small group of retirees who have more money than they need to produce the retirement income they require. They can use any investing strategy. My work deals with the people in between, constrained investors. These are the millions of Americans who reach retirement with savings, but the amount they've saved is not high in relation to the level of monthly income that they absolutely must have. Constrained investors may have a modest amount of savings or multiple millions of dollars. It's less about the amount they've saved and more about the relationship between the amount saved and the level of monthly income that, again, the investor must have. This is why their first priority is to manage financial risks that can reduce or even wipe out their ability to create income from their savings. Let me explain with this example. This is Grace, a 66-year-old widow who is just entering retirement. Throughout her working years, her dedication to saving enabled Grace to accumulate $925,000. Now retired, Grace must count on her savings to produce some of the income she needs to pay for her minimally acceptable lifestyle. That's an important term. In a moment, I'll explain what it means. Recently, Grace has begun to receive Social Security retirement benefits of $2,200 per month. Social Security will cover part of the income Grace needs each month. Her savings must provide the rest. Grace needs a total income of $5,623. Here's where that number comes from. Grace has two types of expenses: vital expenses and lifestyle expenses. Vital expenses represent life's necessities: housing, insurance, transportation, food, clothing, utilities, taxes, and prescription copays. Let's say Grace's vital expenses total $4,325. But to add fulfillment and enjoyment to her retirement, Grace also has lifestyle expenses for things like occasional travel, dining out, going to the movies, and gifts for her grandkids. To build in a budget for lifestyle expenses, we increased the vital expenses amount of $4,325 by 30%, giving us a monthly total of $5,623. Now, is this a lavish lifestyle for Grace? Certainly not. Think of it as her minimally acceptable lifestyle. In part, some of the money Grace needs each month will come from the $2,200 she receives from Social Security. The difference, however, income planners refer to as Grace's income gap, and covering that money must come from her savings. Grace's monthly income gap is $3,423. Let's see how that was calculated. We start with the total amount she needs, $5,623, and subtract the $2,200 from Social Security, leaving a monthly income gap of $3,423. Multiply that by 12, and we can see that on an annual basis, Grace's savings must generate $41,076. Next, we have to answer the question, is Grace a constrained investor? To determine if she is, we will use the income to assets ratio. This is a simple division problem, an uncomplicated way for retirees to know what type of investors they are. If the ratio gives us a result of 3% or more, then the individual is a constrained investor. To calculate Grace's result, we divide her required annual income by the amount of savings available to produce income. So, $41,076 divided by $925,000 equals 4.44%. That is greater than 3%. Therefore, Grace is a constrained investor. But what does it really mean? In a word, caution. Like all constrained investors, Grace has an absolute reliance on her savings to produce income that she must have. She will have to invest carefully. Investing mistakes? Grace can't afford them. She has no extra cash to absorb the losses. Yet, she'll need to be a steady and disciplined investor. But that is unlikely unless she has a strategy that helps her remain consistent and on track through all market conditions. This is very important to understand. Once again, a constrained investor has an unconditional reliance upon savings to produce income that he or she must have. To reiterate, a constrained investor's number one planning goal is to manage risks which can reduce or even wipe out retirement income. The fact is, retirees face many risks. Let's look at three, what I refer to as the three big risks. They are timing risk, longevity risk, and inflation risk. We'll first look at timing risk. Imagine 10 people who are financially identical. All 10 have the same amount of savings, $500,000. All have identical investment portfolios. To create income in retirement, each person will withdraw the same amount of money. What then is different about these 10 people? Only one thing: timing. To illustrate the devastating impact of timing risk, rather than retire all 10 people on the same day, we will separate their retirements by one calendar quarter. This means that about every 90 days another person will retire until all 10 have retired. The sequence will look like this. The first person retires on January 1, the second on April 1, the third on July 1, and it continues in this fashion until all 10 are retired. Next, we'll look at what happens to 4 of these people over retirement spanning 30 years. They are Ben, Jackie, Steve, and Sue, the first, second, fifth, and 10th to retire. For this example, we'll use real market values and we'll track the results over retirements lasting 30 years. This exercise demonstrates how remarkably destructive timing risk can be. Let's begin with Ben and Jackie. Ben retires first on January 1. 3 months later, on April 1st, Jackie follows Ben into retirement. Will their results vary? Although only 3 months separates their retirements, Jackie ends up with almost $1 million more than Ben. Imagine how Ben's retirement lifestyle could have been made better had he waited just 3 months. In terms of timing, you could say Ben had very bad luck. But the result for our 5th retiree, Steve, is even worse. Steve suffered what economists call portfolio ruin. It means he has no money, no wealth, no income, just bad luck. In practical terms, portfolio ruin means a ruined retirement. Luck, of course, can be good or bad. Sue had particularly good luck. She received 30 years of inflation-adjusted income and is sitting on a pile of cash equal to $2.6 million. They started equally, yet Sue is rich and Steve is broke. This is why constrained investors cannot prudently neglect timing risk. Now, in recent months, the performance of stocks in the U.S. has created an environment that makes timing risk a very serious threat. If this concerns you, my book Constrained Investor explains how to protect yourself. Remember this: when your retirement assets are not arranged properly, you effectively leave it to luck to determine your standard of living in retirement. Don't give luck that much power. The fact is, being lucky in retirement means being protected in retirement. Now that we know why constrained investors must plan for timing risk, there's another risk that is every bit as important to manage. Is living a long life really a risk? In a financial sense, it's really the biggest risk of all. To understand why it's reckless for constrained investors to forego lifetime income planning, let's look carefully at longevity risk. At age 66, Pam is healthy and vibrant, and she knows something about living a long time in retirement. Her mom, Alice, lived until age 96. Is it possible that Pam could outlive Alice by, say, 6 years? Of course it is. When you think about what is being worked on by scientists, nanobots, gene sequencing, lab-grown organs, new treatments for Alzheimer's, and deep brain stimulation, to name just a few. If Pam outlives Alice by 6 years, she will need income that lasts from age 66 to 102. That is 432 months of needing income, 3.5 decades. Sound far-fetched? It's not. Across the globe, there are hundreds of thousands of centenarians. These are people who are age 100 or older. Globally, the numbers have increased by 400% since the year 2000. If Grace makes it to 100, she will be one among millions. Longevity risk is why constrained investors must make provisions for an element of lifetime guaranteed income as part of their overall plan for retirement income. If you are a constrained investor with a normal life expectancy, and you meet a financial advisor who tells you that you do not need lifetime guaranteed income, you should find another advisor, because that advisor hasn't yet learned enough about constrained investors like you. Inflation has returned to the U.S. economy, and it's significant. At the time this video was produced, the inflation rate is running at about 8%. In recent months, inflation has been at the highest levels we've seen since the 1970s. A visit to any supermarket provides evidence of inflation's merciless impact. For retirees, inflation is a cruel force that robs them of their standards of living. This is why a well-designed income plan must seek to keep retirement income on pace with inflation. I hope I've shown you why it's important to know if you are a constrained investor. You may well be one. If so, congratulations. It's a good thing. It's a good thing because you have been prudent and you have saved. You should be optimistic and confident about your retirement security. Just by watching this video, you've learned a lot that will help you make your income last. Knowledge is power, and this is powerful knowledge. Without question, however, you should have a plan for income that is built around your personal needs and objectives. For that, you will need the help of a financial advisor who specializes in income planning for constrained investors. At the beginning of this video was a graphic that said, "The strategy you use to turn your retirement savings into retirement income is one of the most consequential financial decisions you will ever make." That statement could not be more true. Financially, income is everything to a retiree. Work with an advisor and create your own income strategy. The financial stakes are too high and the repercussions too great when constrained investors don't plan. Never forget that, in retirement, it's all about your income. Thanks for watching. This is David Macchia.